My Jeep Gladiator hit a pothole, leaving this Love's truck stop. I felt a 7.0 Richter scale butt pucker and shake in the front end. Death Wobble hit like a ton of bricks. I had a death grip on the wheel, and I was praying nothing would snap before I could slow down. I knew the front end was a mess, but I didn't know how much I was going to learn or how much I was going to replace. My Death Wobble eureka moment came when I started thinking about suspension as a system, not as individual parts. You have to look past the steering stabilizer. This is the nuclear option. When I was done installing, we took this Jeep on a 1,000-mile gauntlet. Highway speeds, miles of washboard roads, technical off-road trails, and the Jeep performed like a beast in all conditions. Today I'm showing you the exact blueprint I used to rebuild this front end with mechanical precision. To fix the shake, you have to understand the fatal flaws of the factory setup. You're dealing with parts that were never meant to handle 35s and a lift kit. OEM parts are built for the 90% who stay on the pavement, but for the 10% of us who actually use these machines, those factory setups have fatal flaws. You added 35s and a lift kit and maybe a heavy bumper and a winch, and those components are feeling the strain. And then one day out of the blue, that little vibration you've been feeling in the wheel turns into a massive death wobble. The plastic seats on these OEM ball joints are a good example. They ride smoother, but they wear out faster. That plastic seat is a ticking time bomb. Worn ball joints cause harmonic imbalance in the front suspension and death wobble. And pro tip here, the standard 6 and 12 ball joint test may not reveal bad ball joints. Watch 100 YouTube videos on death wobble and you'll get 100 different opinions. I spent 40 years in the trades, and frankly, I'm too old to spend months chasing a shimmy. I needed to turn this Gladiator from a quivering mess into a dependable overlanding machine, and I needed it done right. And that is how the nuclear option came to exist. It wasn't always pretty, and doing this solo means you're the lead mechanic and the cleanup crew. But by going nuclear, I stopped guessing and started building. Flying solo, and that's just the way it is. I spent 4 decades in the trades, and one thing I've learned is that the machine never lies. After finishing the nuclear option, here are 3 things I wish I knew before I turned a single wrench. Lesson 1, bench matching. If you match your new track bar length to your OEM bar here on the bench, you aren't fighting the alignment shop later. You're starting from a position of precision. Lesson 2, the caster secret. When you lift a Jeep, it flattens out the steering angle. By installing adjustable upper control arms, you hit that 5.4 to 6 degree sweet spot. That creates the mechanical return to center force that stops the wobble before it starts. Lesson 3, preload the linkage. By setting the toe in to exactly 1/8 inch, you ensure that the tires are pointing slightly towards each other. This specific adjustment preloads the steering hardware, preventing the components from shivering or vibrating while you're driving. Every solo project has its fiasco moments. Mine was misdiagnosing a ticking U-joint and a unit bearing replacement that I didn't need to do. This was my DIY tax. I paid it again when I realized my OEM wheels wouldn't clear the new beefier MetalCloak tie rod ends. I didn't read the fine print, so I had to order a set of Black Rock Steelies. At 4.5 inches of backspacing, the clearance is perfect, but the lesson was clear. With a nuclear option, you have to expect a little bit of scope creep. Now, I'm not an auto mechanic, but 40 years in the trade taught me how to think on my feet and get the job done. If you have a decent set of tools and the willingness to turn wrenches, you can upgrade your rig too. Now, I'm not saying these parts went together like Legos. There was some reaming. The BFH got broke out more than a couple times, and I did have to buy a set of crow's foot wrenches to get those drag link and tie rod ends torqued. My nuclear option plan meant replacing everything, and that was a pretty long list of parts. With tons of great manufacturers out there, it was a really difficult choice, but I decided to go with steel, and MetalCloak makes solid chrome moly parts with a unique gold finish. And I am not sponsored by MetalCloak or any other company. Their patented Duraflex and Duratrac bushings sealed the deal. Incredibly effective at absorbing vibration and easy to replace. I ordered the front and rear track bars from MetalCloak, and the steering system consisting of a drag link and a new tie rod. A bonus with MetalCloak is the team of techs you can speak to on the phone. I got a hold of one of the most experienced men on the staff, and he gave me some great advice. He told me that replacing the upper control arms with adjustable upper control arms wasn't just an option, it was a key to the entire geometry. That Mopar lift kit I installed came with a set of longer, lower control arms, but if I wanted to take this nuclear build to the next level, I was going to have to add a set of adjustable upper control arms to the parts list. Really, adding those UCAs was a no-brainer that paid off big time at the alignment shop. For ball joints, I was torn between MetalCloak baller joints and Dynatrac HD Pro Steers. I found a heavily discounted Dynatrac Pro Steer product that was exactly what I needed, so I saved myself a few bucks. When you're choosing between Dynatrac Pro Steer and MetalCloak baller joints, you really can't go wrong. And just to cover any potential steering box flex and reinforce the frame side track bar mount, I ordered a Steer Smarts sector shaft brace and frame side track bar mount reinforcement. I've got more details and install videos for all these parts if you decide to install them yourself. Link to playlist in the description. You don't replace ball joints on a Jeep without pulling axles, and that made me a little nervous. Screwing that up has consequences, especially on the passenger side axle that has the FAD. That FAD shift collar has to be perfectly lined up to match the splines on the axle. I have a standalone video and an article on muddyruts.com on exactly how to reset your Jeep's FAD shift collar. When I picked up the Gladiator at the alignment shop and the service manager told me I made his tech's job easy because I had all my parts close to spec, that was a proud moment. It was even better when I got on the highway and drove 80 per. Then I hit some desert tracks around here in Las Cruces, and the rig just felt tight and solid. Be honest, there were some moments of doubt, like pulling the axles and taking that front axle disconnect apart. By not cutting corners, being precise with torque values, and using the right Loctite, I ended up with a Gladiator that's ready for adventure and that trip to Moab next fall. I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy, and I've spent time on job sites from California to Iraq. I've learned the machine only respects the person that respects the rules. When I'm out solo overlanding, my Garmin's in my pocket, my parking brake is set, and my Jeep is turned off every time I exit that seat. I fix it right in the garage so I can trust it in the desert, but I always have a backup plan if the desert has other ideas. Well, this is the biggest auto repair project I've ever taken on. I managed to document it with 10 great install videos and companion articles on muddyruts.com with more extensive information for each video. Links are in the description and the pinned comment for all of it. If you like this video, you're going to like the one that's coming up on the end screen. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, and consider subscribing. And don't forget, on Muddy Ruts, the best is yet to come.